Daniel sat quietly on the old wooden bench outside his small apartment. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. He watched the birds fly home, thinking about his own life, a life full of work, sacrifice, and little rest. For many years, Daniel had been the one everyone in his family turned to. When his cousins needed money for school, Daniel helped. When his aunt got sick and needed medicine, Daniel paid for it. When his younger brother wanted to start a business, Daniel gave him a loan. He was a family's rock. But Daniel had a secret. Deep down, he was tired. Not just tired in his body, but tired in his heart. All his life, Daniel had dreamed of having a home of his own, a place where he could relax, where he could be free, and where he could feel proud. A place with a garden full of flowers, and a porch where he could sit with a cup of tea. Finally, after years of saving every penny, Daniel had bought a small house on the edge of town. It was old and needed some fixing, but it was his dream. But things didn't go as he hoped. From the day Daniel bought the house, his family had started to expect more from him. His cousin said things like, "You should let us stay there sometimes." His aunt said, "You should help pay for the repairs." Even his brother told him, "You should give the house to me when you're gone." Daniel felt a heavy weight on his shoulders. Instead of being happy about his home, he felt trapped. The people he loved were asking for more than he could give. One afternoon, Daniel sat at the kitchen table fixing an old chair when he heard voices outside. His wife, Anna, was talking with her friends. "He's more like a nanny than a husband," Anna said quietly. "He pays for everything, but he never stands up for himself." Daniel's heart sank. He felt invisible. The people he helped didn't see him as a man with dreams and feelings. They saw him as a wallet, someone to support their lives. That night, Daniel lay awake, thinking, is this what I wanted? To work so hard, only to feel like I don't belong in my own home? Slowly, Daniel began to think differently about the house. Maybe the house should not belong to his family, not to those who only took from him without giving back. Maybe it should go to someone who deserved it, someone who cared, someone who loved the home not for money or power, but for what it truly meant. One name kept coming to his mind, Lily. Lily was his neighbor. She was kind and gentle, always helping others without asking for anything in return. Her house was small and old, and she worked hard every day to keep it clean and beautiful. Daniel remembered how Lily once helped him when he was sick, bringing soup and medicine without hesitation. Maybe Lily deserved the house more than anyone else. That night, Daniel wrote a letter. He didn't tell anyone. He didn't argue or fight. He simply wrote down his feelings and his decision. He was going to give the house to Lily. Daniel knew it would not be easy. His family would be angry. They would not understand why he would give away something he worked so hard to buy. But Daniel also knew something else. This was his home, and he had the right to choose who should live in it. As the moon rose high in the sky, Daniel felt a strange calm inside him. He had made a choice to stop living for others and start living for himself. And maybe, just maybe, this was the first step to finding real peace. Daniel's story did not start with a house. It started years ago, long before he could even imagine owning a home. He grew up in a small village where life was hard and money was scarce. His parents worked hard, but barely made enough to feed the family. From a young age, Daniel learned what it meant to sacrifice. When Daniel was only a boy, his father fell ill. The family did not have money for a proper doctor, so Daniel took it upon himself to help. He stopped going to school regularly and started working odd jobs, carrying water, cleaning houses, selling fruits at the market. He wanted to help his family survive. As he grew older, Daniel's responsibilities grew too. When his older brother moved to the city to find work, Daniel became the man of the house. He took care of his mother and younger sisters, sending them to school when he could, even if it meant working through the night. He never complained. When Daniel moved to the city himself, he hoped life would get easier, but he soon found it was not so. The city was expensive and lonely. Still, he worked hard, washing cars, fixing machines, doing anything that paid. His family needed him. Slowly, Daniel began to help more than just his parents and siblings. His cousins, aunts, uncles, all had problems, and all turned to Daniel. His cousin Sarah wanted to become a nurse but could not afford college. Daniel paid her fees. His uncle needed money to start a small shop. Daniel gave him a loan. His younger brother wanted to buy tools for a small business. Daniel lent him the money. He felt proud to help. It was his way of showing love. But the cost was high. Daniel's own dreams slowly disappeared. He wanted to study engineering, to build machines and create things. But every time he saved some money for himself, something came up in the family that needed help. His apartment was small and plain. He wore old clothes. He never had a proper vacation or a day off. His friends said he was a hero. Daniel did not think so. He felt tired. He missed having time for himself. Despite all this, Daniel never stopped giving. He believed family came first. He believed helping others was a duty. But there was one thing he wanted for himself, a home, a place where he could rest without worry, a place he could call his. It was a simple dream, but for Daniel, it seemed far away. Years passed. Daniel saved every penny, working extra hours, cutting his own expenses. Finally, he bought a small house at the edge of the city. It was old and needed fixing, but it was a start. He thought, now I can finally rest. But instead of rest, the house became a new burden. Family members saw it as another chance to ask Daniel for help. His cousins wanted to stay there when they visited the city. His aunt said she needed money to repair the roof. His brother expected Daniel to give him the house one day. Daniel felt the weight again. He had worked so hard for this house, but no one seemed to respect it. No one saw it as Daniel's home. One day, Daniel overheard a conversation that hurt deeply. He was at a family gathering, quietly sitting in the corner, when he heard his sister say to her friend, "Daniel is just the family's ATM. He gives and gives, but never says no. It's like he has no life of his own." Daniel felt his heart break. He had given so much, but had he lost himself? That night, Daniel sat alone in the empty house, staring at the cracked walls. He thought about all the sacrifices he had made, all the money he had spent, all the times he had said yes when he wanted to say no. He realized something important. He had given everything to others, but he had nothing left for himself. The house was not a home anymore. It was a reminder of what he had lost. Daniel's mind went back to a moment many months before when Lily, his neighbor, had helped him. He had been sick, barely able to get out of bed. Lily came with soup and medicine, no questions asked. She didn't ask for money. She didn't expect anything in return. She simply cared. That memory gave Daniel hope. Maybe the house should belong to someone like Lily, someone who understood the true meaning of home, someone who would care for it with love and respect, someone who would make the house a home. Daniel closed his eyes and made a quiet promise. He would find a way to give the house to someone who truly deserved it, someone who valued a home not just for money or family ties, but for love and kindness. The sacrifices have been many, but Daniel was ready for a new path, a path where he could find peace, where the house would finally be more than just a building. It would be a place of hope and new beginnings. Daniel sat in the small kitchen of his old house, a cup of cold tea in his hand. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees, but inside his mind was loud with thoughts. The house felt empty, almost like it was waiting for something. He thought about everything he had done for his family, all the money he had given, all the times he had put their needs before his own. He had hoped the house would be a gift for them, a place to gather and share. But that hope was fading. The truth was clear in his heart. The house was no longer for his family. For days, Daniel thought hard about what to do. He wanted the house to be loved, cared for, and respected. But who deserved it? His cousins, aunts, and even his brother. All of them had taken so much from him, yet showed little gratitude. They talked about the house as if it was theirs to claim, not his. One evening, Daniel's thoughts turned to Lily, his quiet neighbor who lived in a small, run-down cottage nearby. Lily was different from the rest. She was gentle, kind, and always willing to help others. She never asked for money or favors. Instead, she gave without expecting anything in return. Daniel remembered how Lily had cared for him when he was sick. She brought him food, medicine, and even company when he felt lonely. Her kindness was quiet but strong. Daniel decided to visit Lily. He found her tending to her little garden, humming softly to herself. She looked up and smiled when she saw him. "Daniel, what a surprise," she said warmly. He sat beside her on the old wooden bench and took a deep breath. "Lily, I've been thinking. I want to give you something. Something very important." Lily's eyes widened with surprise. "Me? But why?" Daniel smiled softly. "Because you deserve it. You've shown me what it means to care for a home and for people. I want you to have my house." Lily shook her head, looking unsure. "Daniel, it's too much. I don't want to take something that belongs to your family." Daniel reached out and gently took her hand. "It's not about family anymore. It's about what's right. The house is more than just walls and a roof. It's a place where love and respect live, and I believe you can give it that." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, Daniel. I don't know what to say." Back at his house, Daniel wrote a letter to his family. He wanted to explain his decision clearly and calmly. "Dear family," he began, "I have given everything I could to support you, but the house I bought is not for you. I want it to go to someone who truly deserves it, someone who will love it as a home, not just as property. That person is Lily. I know this will be hard to understand, but please respect my choice." Daniel knew his decision would not be easy for his family to accept. He was ready for their anger, their disappointment, and even their rejection. But for the first time in a long time, Daniel felt peace inside. He was standing up for himself. He was choosing kindness and fairness over expectation and demand. The next day, Daniel gathered with his family. He handed them the letter and waited. Some of them looked shocked. Others were angry. "Why would you give it to someone outside the family?" his brother asked loudly. "After everything I've done," said his cousin Sarah bitterly. Daniel listened quietly. He did not shout or argue. "I'm sorry," he said softly, "but this is what I believe is right." Days passed, and the family's anger did not fade. They called Daniel names, spread rumors, and tried to pressure him to change his mind. But Daniel stood firm. He had learned something important. Self-respect is worth more than approval. He had given too much of himself for too long. Now, it was time to give to someone who truly deserved it. Meanwhile, Lily prepared for the new responsibility. She cleaned the house carefully, fixing what she could and planting flowers around the garden. The house began to feel warm and alive again. Daniel visited often, watching with a smile as Lily made the house a home. One afternoon, Daniel and Lily sat together on the porch. "I never thought a house could mean so much," Lily said quietly. Daniel nodded. "It's not the house that matters. It's what we do with it." Lily smiled. "Thank you for trusting me." Daniel looked at her and felt hope. Hope that kindness and fairness could build something stronger than blood ties. Daniel's decision was difficult, but it was the right one. He had learned that love is not just about giving money or things. It is about respect, trust, and choosing what is best for everyone. The news of Daniel's decision spread quickly through the family, like wildfire. At first, it was hard for many to believe. How could Daniel, who had supported them all these years, suddenly give the house to someone outside the family? To Lily, a quiet neighbor they barely knew? The day Daniel handed over the letter to his family, tension filled the air. His relatives gathered in the small living room, faces flushed with anger and confusion. "What is this nonsense?" shouted Daniel's brother Mark. "How can you just give away the house to someone who isn't even family? After all we've been through?" His cousin Sarah crossed her arms, her voice sharp. "We thought you would leave the house to one of us. This is betrayal." Daniel remained calm. "I didn't want to fight. I wanted to do what's right. The house deserves to be loved and cared for, not used as a tool for selfish gain." But no one seemed to listen. In the days that followed, family members began to show their anger more openly. Daniel's phone rang constantly, angry voices on the other side, demanding he change his mind. "Daniel, you're making a mistake. You owe this to us," Mark said one night, his voice raised in frustration. "I've given you everything I could," Daniel replied firmly. "This house is not for sale or bargaining. My decision is final." The family's anger wasn't only in words. A few even came to the house unannounced, demanding to see it or threatening to take control by force. One afternoon, as Daniel was returning home from work, he saw his cousin Peter standing in front of the gate with a group of men. Peter's face was red with anger. "This house belongs to us," Peter shouted. "You can't just give it away like that." Daniel took a deep breath, standing his ground. "The house belongs to me, and I have the right to decide who lives here." Peter sneered, but said nothing more. The tension hung thick in the air like a storm ready to burst. Despite the pressure, Daniel found strength in his quiet resolve. He remembered why he made the decision: to protect something more valuable than property, his own peace. He also knew Lily was facing pressure too. Lily, who had accepted the house with gratitude, found herself caught in the middle. At work, some people whispered about her taking Daniel's gift unfairly. Even some neighbors, once kind, now avoided her. One day, she found a note on her doorstep that read, "Give the house back to the family or else." Lily felt scared but did not give up. She wrote back to Daniel, sharing her fears. Daniel replied with words of comfort and promise. "We will face this together," he wrote. "Your courage is as important as mine." Meanwhile, tensions in the family grew deeper. One night, Daniel's sister Laura came to see him. Tears in her eyes, she begged, "Please, Daniel, think about us. We are your family. Don't throw everything away." Daniel looked at her sadly. "Laura, I have thought about it long and hard. It's not about hurting you. It's about doing what's right. We have all taken from each other without giving back." Laura shook her head, unable to understand. She left, leaving Daniel alone with his thoughts. Daniel's stand began to affect the family's dynamics. Without his financial support, some relatives struggled. Some began to realize how much they had depended on him. Sarah, who once shouted the loudest, faced difficulties paying her school fees when Daniel stopped helping. Her anger slowly turned into regret. One afternoon, Daniel received a message from Sarah. "I'm sorry, Daniel. I didn't understand before. Thank you for everything you've done for me." Daniel smiled quietly but did not reply immediately. Forgiveness and healing, he knew, took time. The biggest challenge came when Daniel's brother Mark threatened legal action. "Give us the house, or we'll take you to court," Mark warned. Daniel was surprised but not afraid. He consulted a lawyer and learned that the house was legally his, bought with his money. "I am prepared for whatever comes," Daniel said calmly. Meanwhile, Lily worked hard to make the house a home. She repaired broken windows, painted the walls, and planted flowers in the garden. Slowly, neighbors began to see her kindness and hard work. Some even came to help. The house, once quiet and empty, was alive again. One day, Daniel and Lily sat together, watching the sunset from the porch. "We are stronger than their anger," Daniel said. Lily nodded. "Kindness will win." Daniel's family had tried to take the house from him, not with kindness or love, but with anger and greed. But Daniel stood firm. He had given them years of support and love, but he would not let their anger steal his peace. The storm had passed, or so Daniel hoped. After the fierce conflict with his family over the house, a quiet settled over his life. But peace, Daniel soon realized, was not something that came easily. It needed time, patience, and courage. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, the tension around the house began to fade. Daniel's family stopped calling him with angry voices, though the cold silence was sometimes harder to bear. Some of them refused to speak to him. Others still held resentment deep in their hearts. But Daniel knew he had made the right choice. Lily's presence in the house brought a new kind of warmth. She cared for the garden, fixed the broken parts of the house, and even invited neighbors over for tea and small gatherings. The house that once echoed with arguments and anger now hummed with quiet laughter and kindness. One afternoon, Daniel came to visit Lily. She was planting bright yellow flowers along the front porch. "Look at these," she said with a smile. "They remind me that even after a storm, life goes on." Daniel nodded, feeling a lightness he hadn't felt in years. But the hardest part was healing the wounds with his family. Not all bridges could be rebuilt overnight. Daniel's sister Laura was the first to reach out. She came to his apartment one evening, holding a small basket of fruit. "I want to understand," she said softly. Can we start again? Daniel smiled warmly. I would like that. Over the next months, Daniel and Laura spoke more often. Slowly, other family members began to soften. Some came to visit the house, curious about Lily's work. A few even helped plant flowers or fix the fence. Still, some family members stayed distant. Mark, Daniel's brother, had not spoken since the day of the conflict. Daniel knew it would take time for Mark to see things differently. Meanwhile, Daniel learned something new about himself. He realized that sometimes love means setting boundaries, that caring for others also means caring for yourself. One morning, Daniel sat on his own porch with a cup of tea. He looked at the house next door, where Lily was busy painting the fence. A sense of peace washed over him. He was no longer the family provider, nor their prisoner. He was free. Life was not perfect. There were still challenges. But Daniel had found something more valuable than money or approval. He had found respect for himself and from others. A letter arrived one day from Sarah, his cousin. She wrote, "Dear Daniel, I am sorry for not understanding you before. I have learned a lot these past months. Thank you for teaching me about kindness and strength. I hope one day we can be a family again." Daniel kept the letter close, a symbol of hope. In the quiet moments, Daniel sometimes thought about the past, about the sacrifices he made and the pain he felt. But he no longer felt bitter. He knew that every choice, every sacrifice had led him to this moment. The house was no longer just a building. It was a symbol of courage, kindness, and new beginnings. Daniel smiled. He was ready for whatever the future held, because he had learned to take care of himself. And that made all the difference. After months of struggle, Daniel finally felt a calm settle over his life. The battles had been hard, but they were behind him now. The house, once a place of conflict, had become a symbol of peace and new beginnings. Daniel watched from his porch as Lily tended to the garden next door. The bright flowers swayed gently in the breeze, a beautiful reminder of growth after hardship. The house was alive again, filled with warmth and care. Daniel thought about his journey, how many years he had given to others, working tirelessly, sacrificing his dreams, always putting family first. But in doing so, he had forgotten something important, to care for himself. Now, he was learning that balance. Love was not just about giving. It was also about setting boundaries. It was about knowing when to say no and when to protect your own peace. Though some family members still held their anger, others began to reach out. Daniel welcomed them with open arms, ready to heal old wounds, but no longer willing to be taken for granted. He realized that relationships built on respect and understanding were stronger than those built on obligation alone. One evening, Daniel sat quietly with Lily on the porch. They shared stories, dreams, and laughter. For the first time in a long while, Daniel felt hopeful about the future. Lily looked at him and said, "You gave me more than just a house, Daniel. You gave me a chance to build a home." Daniel smiled. "And you reminded me what a home really means." The house had changed both of their lives. For Daniel, it was a fresh start, a place where he could be himself without guilt or pressure. For Lily, it was a sanctuary, a place to nurture kindness and hope. Daniel's heart was lighter now. He no longer felt trapped by expectations or demands. Instead, he felt free to live his life on his own terms, with peace and dignity. He understood that true wealth was not measured by money or property, but by love, respect, and the courage to make difficult choices. As the sun set, casting warm colors across the sky, Daniel knew he had found his way. He had taken a difficult path, but it led him to something far more valuable than any house, his own peace. And that was worth everything.